this is gonna be my second time shooting this video. I did this rod. I did a whole segment on upgrading this rod from this to that. Went to the camera, it stopped recording. So we are gonna go through this again, but this is how we learn. We screw up and we learn. So what you see here is my Carolina rig rod with the Cardiff 100 on it. A workhorse for me, has done really good for me, but I've had this rod for 10 11 years. The cork up here had chunks missing, had dry rot cracks, all that sort of thing. So I decided to, instead of taking the handles off or replacing the rod, because the blank is still really good, this is my Shimano Compre 7-foot medium action deep cranking rod. Okay, again, I don't know if you can see deep pits in the cork here. It's got some discoloration, really light spots here where it's starting to sun fade, dry rot, crack where it's been filled, and all that sort of stuff up here starting to split. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this material, which is a rod handle heat shrink tubing. See, it works pretty good. So what you're going to need to do this, you're going to need a pair of scissors, you're going to need the materials, of course, you're going to need a heat gun. What we're going to do is we're going to measure the material. You actually will, over time, as this cork dries up and cracks, you'll get separation from the reel seat. So I actually want it to overlap the reel seat, much like I did here. All right. This rod will turn out a lot better than some of my other rods, because you can see here they've got black butt caps on them. My other rods were all cork, so even though I did the handle on the end of it, you can still see cork. And there is going to be a little bit of opportunity up here on the foregrip, because the shrink tubing will collapse against it, but it won't wrap around very good. Okay, so you have to decide if you want to show cork here or you want to show cork here. Either way, I'm sure it can be touched up with just some black paint, some black hobby paint from the hobby store or what have you, and that'll fix that, and that's not an issue. So I'm not too concerned about that. I'll do that later. All right, it's your rod here. I'm not too worried about this, because that little bit of section here, I'm gonna have about 1 inch left over. I can't do anything with 1 inch, okay? So I'm still gonna trim it though, because I don't want it all the way back here. So simple, open it up. You put the butt of the reel in it and just slide it up. Man, that was a lot easier than that one. This one has a much bigger grip on it, much bigger handle. So it actually was really tight going on in the first place. So if you can see, you've got the cork and the reel seat. I'm actually gonna come up just over that reel seat. When this shrinks, it'll shrink diameter-wise, and it's gonna shrink lengthwise, guys. So you have to make sure that you have some overlap, or else it will back off and you'll see the cork. Okay? I'm gonna use a heat gun. I'm gonna heat this up. What I'm not gonna do is hold the heat gun in one spot for a very long time. Fishing rods are made out of carbon fiber, fiberglass weave, epoxy resins, and glue. Epoxy resin, glue, and woven fiber mat tends to respond to heat, especially the epoxy and the glue. So I don't want to overheat this. I don't want to heat that cork up. Cork is glued together in pieces also, so I don't want to cause a lot of heat into the handle that I'm trying to fix, and possibly cause damage. Do I know for a fact it will cause damage? No. Do I know for a fact that it won't cause damage? No. So failure is always an option. I just try to limit the failure as much as possible. So gonna check and make sure that everything shrunk down tight like it's supposed to. And guys, that is good. And it actually, I don't know if you can see, there's a little bit of a drop down where it went over that butt cap. Now, I'll cut this piece off later and just trim it down even with the butt cap, and that's a clean looking rod. And you can see the comparison between the foregrip and the back. That's what it looked like when I started. Okay, so we're gonna trim another piece, and we're gonna do down over top over your guides. Really easy to do. Come down over the front. I think that should be just about right. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure that this lock nut for the reel is as far back as I can. Again, that's a little plastic piece up against a metal piece. I'm just trying to be mindful of the heat that I'm about to put on all these parts. Hey, how are you? All right. Okay, guys, there you go. Again, we're gonna trim this off with a razor blade later. That's the whole rod done. Here's the end of it. Like I said, it doesn't do such a good job of coming around and wrapping around the handle here, but I opted to let the material come up in the front and cover most of that up. And then you got the back here. If you can see the cork showing through here. Again, I'll touch that up with some paint, just some black paint or whatever. It'll bother me because I didn't want the cork there, so that's why I'm going to do it. You totally could just leave it alone, but it will bother me. Oh, they're fine.